Okay, so today we're talking about Daniel Boone. We're going to do some questions. If you haven't already, looking at an article about him and then mapping his route. And I'm going to show you some tips today for how to map those explorers' routes because they really do have to be pretty precise for you to get the points for those. So I don't want you to just look at maps and kind of guess where the explorers' routes are. So I'll show you the tips for doing those so that you can start working on that part of this map assignment here. So today you're going to be reading about Daniel Boone. The link to the article you need is actually linked to the title of the article, and it is a History Channel article called Wilderness Road, which is part of what he discovered. So you're going to go in there and read that. If for some reason you would like reading help or you're struggling to find answers for any reason at all, today's direction says if you need reading help or help finding answers from the Daniel Boone article, click here. And if you click this is a link to a reading of the chapter, and I'm also helping you find answers. I'll be pausing and kind of helping you figure out what you can write down for some of those answers. Okay, so back to Daniel Boone. You saw in the video that he blazed a trail through the Cumberland Gap. So when you're looking at his route, this is the Great Valley Road. It starts above Chesapeake Bay right here and kind of finds its way down. And that road was really already there. It was a trading route and so on. What Daniel Boone kind of blazed a trail through is this wilderness road here. And this is the Cumberland Gap that you saw in the video. They told you it was created by a meteor, and that when it hit the mountains here, it created sort of a more level area in the mountains for people to easily get through. So this is his route here, and this is what he's most famous for. He gets to Kentucky, he helps settle the land here, makes a bunch of land deals. They don't go very well, but we'll talk about that in a second. So this is what you're mapping today, and we'll come back to that too. So let me just share a couple of things about Daniel Boone that really weren't in the video. First of all, I wanted you to notice that Daniel Boone actually was a TV show for a while. And you can see Disney here put out the videos for it, Walt Disney. And this is the actor that played Daniel Boone, and they always showed him with this coonskin cap, wearing this leather jacket like this with the fringes hanging off. The coonskin cap wasn't a thing. He did not wear that. But the rest of it actually doesn't look too different. If you come here, you can see they took a painting of him and actually used that to design the costume. But this is more likely what he looked like. This is an actual portrait that was done of him while he was still alive. So that's what Daniel Boone would have looked like. This is him in his younger days here. Pointing out something else too, if you're searching for any pictures of him, you will come across this. This is actually the exact same actor that played Daniel Boone playing Davy Crockett. He was in the video you just watched too. Davy Crockett was a soldier fighting at the Alamo. He was also a frontiersman, and it's really hard to tell the difference between the two, especially when it's the same actor playing them. So if you happen to be looking for pictures of him or any kind of information, you'll come across this too. So just kind of a funny one. Daniel Boone. So about him, his parents came from Europe, and they were Quakers, and that's a religious group. And Quakers weren't really accepted in Europe all that much. They were kind of different. But Quakers came to the United States and settled mostly in Pennsylvania. And so that's where his parents ended up. And just a side note, they ended up getting kicked out of their church in Pennsylvania because their children, Daniel Boone's parents, his two older siblings married people who were not Quakers. And since his father refused to condemn them for that, they said, fine, then you're all kicked out of the church. So that was kind of interesting. So Daniel Boone, they end up moving away from Pennsylvania, and then he kind of starts this career of exploration. Um, One thing they don't mention in the video, they do talk about his son getting killed. And it was actually a Shawnee and a Cherokee attack, the two working together when his son was killed. He was actually kidnapped himself, Daniel Boone, by the Shawnee in 1778. He was 44 years old already, but he was adopted, sort of, by the chief who had lost his two sons. Um, so he decided that Boone would replace his sons. And so he was working there for about 4 months. He says they really did not mistreat him at all. They just didn't want him to leave. So they watched him really closely, but he did escape after 4 months and went back to the people he was exploring with and in Kentucky there. Um, and the other thing, he did become really famous during his lifetime, famous worldwide for being this great explorer and meeting all these Native Americans and for settling this wilderness land and everything. So he becomes this celebrity, but he really wasn't very good at business, and he happened to get into business with people who were not very honest. So he never really made any money. He was the explorer, he was the guy responsible for all this, but he got cheated out of a lot of the land that he thought he would get. And then when he was helping other people make these land claims, because he wasn't doing things properly, the paperwork wasn't right, the people he was working for were being dishonest. Some of the settlers actually lost their land claims. So they sued him. They sued Daniel Boone. Um, so he ends up basically broke, but he moves away. And this is even before Lewis and Clark in Louisiana, but that's where he moves to, is out to the Louisiana Territory. And it was still controlled by Spain. Then Spain sold it to France, and then France sold it to the United States. Eventually, he goes to Congress and says, "Look at all I did. I'm a hero. I helped blaze this trail, and I'm broke and I have nothing." And so President Madison, who was president at that time, gives him a land grant, about, I don't remember, it was maybe 800 acres, something like that. So he gets this land grant, and as soon as people find out about it, the ones that he that were suing him, they came after him for money. So he takes this land grant that he has and sells all the land so he can pay his legal fees and all the debts against him. So he was a really unlucky guy. He was never believed to be the one who was trying to cheat people or anything. He wasn't a dishonest person. He just had terrible luck and ended up working for the wrong people. So he doesn't end up being a very wealthy guy, but definitely famous for sure. Okay, so when you get down to the questions on him, in yours, they'll look like this with sort of this pinkish background. Um, you're going to answer these 6 questions here from the article that's linked here. Again, I warned you not to Google answers. If any of your answers appear to be from Google, and that's pretty easy for me to tell, I won't grade any of your map project or assignment. I can't keep looking at all that. So no Googling answers. He's even telling you right here to remind you. So now the map, it says click here to do the map part. So here's Daniel Boone. Wilderness and Great Valley roads, and in the key it says Boone's route. So we're going to combine those to be Boone's route, and we need to put the Cumberland Gap on the map. So we're going to go up to the map that you're making, and let me show you a pretty nice trick here. First of all, you have a link to some maps to help you find this, and they look like this. Okay, and here's his route. I just showed you this a minute ago, and there's 2 maps actually in there that show his route, but I want to show you how you can find this on your map. First thing, don't try to draw the route. Do the landforms first. Cumberland Gap is right here. Now, when you're looking at your map, here's Kentucky, and then Virginia, the border comes down like this and it comes into a point, and right there is the Cumberland Gap. If you trace a straight line across, you're at the bottom of the Chesapeake Bay, and his route actually starts above it. So here's Chesapeake Bay. Once you find that, his route starts above it It swipes down in a little curve like this. Then you get to the Cumberland Gap, which if you trace straight across, you're at the point of Virginia. Kentucky's there, Tennessee's right below, so it's right on the border there. That is the point where his route starts to hook up just a little bit to Lexington right here. This is the upper border of Kentucky, and it's a river, and it gives you a hint here. It says this is a river on your map. The roads should be below it. So the roads you're mapping here should be below that. So start above Chesapeake Bay, make a little curve. The border of Virginia is almost what you're following, almost. Then down here, stop where Kentucky and Virginia meet at a point right here, and then hook up just a little bit, but not past this border. So what does that look like on your map? Let's come back. So here is Chesapeake Bay. His path is going to start above Chesapeake Bay, almost follow the border. Now it's slightly covered up, right? But right here is Cumberland Gap. Okay? And I can tell because when I trace across from the bottom of Chesapeake Bay to right about here, that's where Virginia's point will be. It's the top border of Tennessee, and that's where Kentucky meets Virginia, right here. So here's my Cumberland Gap. That means that this route for Boone has to go through the symbol I picked for Cumberland Gap. So I'm going to pick a shape and just show you what that will look like. I don't know why I like the triangle, but I'm going to put one in there. Here's my Cumberland Gap. When I draw my route, I have to go through this triangle. Otherwise, Daniel Boone's whole story is false. That he paved the way through the Cumberland Gap. You have to draw something through the Cumberland Gap. And then you're going to hook up and you'll see Kentucky's border back here. I can't go above that because that's a river. So I hook down through Cumberland Gap and a slight hook up to about here. There's his route. Now I'm going to come over here, and whatever color I use to draw that line for Boone's route, I'm going to put it in my key right here. Now, if you don't know how to put that line in, you go Insert and Line, and if you choose Scribble, it lets you draw any shape line you want. Okay, so you'll do that. To change the color of the line, let's see, I'm going to insert a line. I'm going to do a scribble, and let's see. Let's say I draw it. I can't leave it blue. I can't leave it blue. So here, this pencil looking thing here is my line color. What if I use something like this burgundy-ish color? Okay, I can use this. Then I can come over to the key and draw a line in this color. In your key, you might want your line to be straight. So maybe you just choose line for a straight line and then come over and draw the straight line. Make sure you make it the exact same color, and there you go. Okay, obviously that's not where Boone's route is, but that's how you are going to do those. To get ahead of the game for tomorrow, you're going to be doing Lewis and Clark, and there's a video to watch, which is also linked to this thing here. Lewis and Clark, linked to the title. You're going to answer some questions. There's an article that goes with it too, but Lewis and Clark, we are still working on them next week. But if you feel like I'm so ready to map more stuff, you need the Core of Discovery route. You need the Snake River, the Yellowstone River, and 2 forts that they did, that they built. Lewis and Clark follow rivers on their path. So when you're looking at the expansion maps here, Lewis and Clark follow the Missouri River exactly until they can't follow it any further. And then they have to get across the mountains. And so you can kind of see their route hooks down here after they can't follow the Missouri any further because it starts in the mountains up here, so it's not going to go over the mountains. That's silly. So it hooks down, and then notice they get across here, and then once again, they're on a river. So that's what you want to look for is where are the rivers that they're following. That'll help you find where to put things. Now, Mandan, you should have the Mandan tribe. That's going to be where your Mandan fort is going to go. It's in North Dakota. So that'll help you figure out where to put that. The Fort Clatsop is going to be where they ended their journey, finding the Pacific Ocean. So look for those landforms, look for the rivers, and then make sure you follow. The only place on their journey that they're not on a river is when they hook down like this and come across. Then they get onto the Snake River, part of it here. Okay, so just keep going and following rivers. That's how you're going to find what you need. Okay, so for today, make sure you finish Daniel Boone questions and map his route. And if you get further than that, great. You can go ahead and do the Lewis and Clark video, or it really doesn't matter with Lewis and Clark. If you would like to look at the article first and then come back and do the video next week, that's up to you. But that's for tomorrow and Monday, and even into Tuesday. Okay, and then we have Zebulon Pike and Jed Smith for the rest of that week. And then we're going to get ready for a test on these. So that's what's coming up. Okay, good luck and come to the Google Meet if you have questions or message me on Go Guardian. And if it is your hour, I'll answer. If it's not your hour and you're in Go Guardian messaging me, I'm probably not seeing those because I'll be with another class at that time.